how is this realistic? How? Hey guys, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my August wrap-up. So I'm going to be talking about all the books I managed to finish in the month of August. So in August I managed to finish altogether 7 books, which is more than what I was expecting. I completely blew off my TBR list and didn't manage to get to all the titles from the TBR. The first 4 ones I'm gonna talk about really briefly in here because I've done a whole reading vlog about them and I really go into details into all of the 4 books in there, so I'm just gonna tell you briefly what I read, what I thought about it. If you are interested in hearing my in-depth thoughts, you can go back and watch that reading vlog. I think without further ado, let's get to it. So the first book that I read in August was an audiobook of You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This was a YA contemporary novel. We follow a black girl who is trying to win a prom queen competition because in her town the prom queen and king, they each get $10,000 because it's such a big deal in her town, and she needs this money in order to go to her dream school. She's not your typical kind of girl and she needs to adjust, but also manages to adjust the criteria of the competition based on herself, if you know what I mean. There's also a new girl in town. There's a little bit of female romance. I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it. I really flew through it because I basically listened to it in one go, but it was not as good as everyone said it was. I felt that it was a little bit underwhelming. And I think it was an alright book, but it was not something completely new or completely original, and in the end I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Elevation by Stephen King. This is a short story, so I'm not gonna tell you much about the plot. It's not a horror at all. It is more of a thriller, I guess. I even have difficulties placing this in a genre because it is such a weird book. The premise is this guy starts losing weight out of nowhere and he constantly loses a certain amount of weight every single day. No matter how much he eats or how little he eats, he constantly loses this weight, and this is the premise of it. Not much was happening in that book. I felt like the plot was really weird and strange and I was really not into the plot. I didn't care really what was happening to the characters, but the writing style and the way the King is writing and pushes the reader through the story is something that I really enjoy, and I enjoy that in Pet Sematary and I now enjoy this in Elevation. This was the main reason why I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. From then on I picked up Dark Matter by Blake Roach. This is a sci-fi thriller and we follow this guy Jason who one day when he's walking home to his wife and his child, he's being kidnapped by a masked man. He's been injected some drugs, and then when he finally regains his consciousness, he wakes up in a world where he doesn't have a wife, where he doesn't have a child. His life is different. The main concept in the story is the concept of multiverses and what is real and what is not real. I think it was really well done. Again, the story was extremely hyped and I don't think it lived up to my expectations because they were extremely high, but I still think that it was a really good book, really fast-paced and really cool story. I loved discovering this new multiverses, but I think the ending felt a little short and there were some other bits and plot conveniences or character conveniences in the story that I did not enjoy. But overall, it was a very good book, 4 out of 5, and I highly recommend you pick this one up. Next up, I picked up Joseph by Jakub Małecki. He is a Polish author and he is my favorite Polish author of all times. I really love the way he writes, the way his stories have hidden meanings, but this is a story heavily based on Joseph Conrad and his stories and his books, but we follow 3 men who are stuck in a hospital room together, and they basically share stories. This is the story about demons and fighting your demons to regain your life, and how little things from your life can turn into these massive things that overtake your life. I really enjoyed it. I think the book is really good. However, I did not enjoy it as much as some of his other works, so this is the reason why I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And then moving on to the books that I have not mentioned on my channel yet. The first one was Offering to the Storm by Dolores Redondo. So this is the third and final installment of the mystery series, in which we follow Inspector Salazar solving crimes and investigating weird, mysterious issues in the Basque Country. Obviously this is the third book, so I'm not gonna tell you much about the plot in this one because it's heavily based on the previous ones. We'll pick up directly where the second book has left us off, so there's no really time jump in between these two books. We finally get to the very bottom of what's happening, why it's happening, who's doing it, and I think it's a very satisfying ending. When it comes to the main plots and the main mysteries of the series, I think it's a very satisfying ending. However, I feel like this series has been very heavily based on and focused on the main character, her past experiences, her traumas, her feelings. Everything surrounding her was very important in this story, and I feel like we don't learn much about what happened to her after the event, after the resolution of the whole mystery. Also, the friends and family of Salazar's, of our main character, we don't really know what's happening to them afterwards. There's literally maybe one sentence for each of her sisters outlining what they're doing now, or maybe not even outlining, nothing really is said straightforward. So I feel like as a wrap-up to a series, when it comes to wrapping up the character plot lines and development, I think it's lacking a bit. However, the mystery part was really superbly done. I really enjoyed the way it went and how everything finally made sense in the end. So all in all, highly recommend this series. It would be perfect for this now September, October, November period, because it's very mysterious, very atmospherical, and it's just a great read, really fun, but very graphic as well. So yeah, keep that in mind, but I highly recommend you to pick it up. The next book that I managed to read and really flew through was The Existence of Amy by Lana Grace River. This book was kindly sent to me by the author. I probably would have never heard about this book if it wasn't for the author reaching out to me, so thank you very much again. This story is a contemporary story, or more like literary fiction. I still don't know how to classify it, but it deals with the problem of OCD and depression, and in general covers mental health as a whole. We are following Amy and her just day-to-day life. Amy has OCD and it's really impacting her life. This is the reason why the book is not called The Life of Amy, just The Existence, because she doesn't have a life. Everything is controlled by her inner thoughts, and she can't make any decision for herself because everything is controlled by the mental health issue that she has. Plot-wise, there's nothing exciting happening. However, I feel like Amy's thoughts and Amy's struggles to do even the simplest daily tasks were written in such a perfect way, which perfectly just showed the people how it looks like, how it feels like having a mental disorder. And me, as a person who knows how it feels like, not to the extent that she has, but at some point in my life I've been through it. Sometimes impossible to function, or just being constantly and completely consumed by your fears and your anxiety. This was portrayed perfectly in this book, and I'm so happy that books like this are available to the bigger population and that everyone can just pick it up and read. It was really heartbreaking and really an eye-opening as well for me to follow her story. And I think that it's really important for people to, it's the same way as learning about different cultures and different backgrounds. I think learning about people who struggle with stuff like this, it's important to understand and to know how to help. Definitely one of the books that I feel like has a very realistic portrayal of OCD and anxiety. The one thing that I think that the book was pushing the reality boundaries was how effective support system Amy had around her. She had a work colleague who was more like a friend to her, that understood what she was going through, even though they never talked about this specifically. She never told him what she's struggling with. He understood. And then she also had another person who happened to have gone through something similar in the past, and I feel like it's great that she had it, but not everyone, and I think not many people have it. In general, mental illness is something that a lot of people don't understand because you can't see the symptoms of it straight away. And I feel like it was a little bit of an idealistic situation and an idealistic support system that she had in place in there. But still, I feel like the book does teach you how to react, how to be there for people who need you, and just opens your eyes to people who may seem like they're rude or may seem like they don't like you, but in reality it's something deeper going on in their minds. And I think it's a very important read, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, and the last thing that I managed to finish fully in August was a disappointment for me, and it is an unpopular opinion, I think, in general in the book community, but definitely people on BookTube, Bookstagram, they've been loving this story and I have not. So the book that I'm talking about is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is a dystopian novel, kind of considered a modern classic already. It's been written in 1985 and we follow main character in a patriarchic society and the world. In my opinion, there's very little plot happening in there. My issues with dystopian books that are not meant for young adults is that there's a lot of world building and there's no clear plot of why are we in there. It was similar to this story. I felt like there was no plot at all. We were just following the main characters of Fred, that was her name, her daily routines. Let me put this down. My thoughts regarding The Handmaid's Tale are very complicated and I still don't understand exactly how I feel about it, because I feel like the world that's described in there is a scary place for women, and obviously Atwood's reasons for writing it was, as every dystopian, please let's not make it happen. But the reason I gave this book only 2 out of 5 stars, it was not because I thought the world building was poorly done. We are set in America, in a world where women lost all the rights to do anything, and then women are also divided into categories. Some are meant to be just wives, some of them are meant to be just cooks / cleaners, and there are the handmaids who are supposed to be just reproductive systems basically. They are meant to have 0 rights and they're meant to just bear children and give children to the men. My main issue with the story was not the fact that women had 0 rights in this imaginary world. I feel like it's possible, and the book that I read as first this year, Vox, I don't remember the author right now, but the world in Vox was very similar to the world in The Handmaid's Tale. So me reading Vox first was kind of made me feel like Handmaid's Tale was not as original, even though this is the original world. I understand that, but still it didn't feel like anything new. But my main problem was that we do get flashbacks into past and we kind of learn how this whole thing came to be and why the world looks the way it looks like right now. But to me, it feels so unrealistic. So apparently this horrible world that we are set in is only applicable to America and only happened in America. This division between women versus men has happened only in America. And all the surrounding countries, all the countries in the world, they're kind of okay with it. They're not mentioned at all. They're just saying that tourists from Japan are coming in to view how the world looks like now, how life in America looks like now. And to me, it's just so incredibly unrealistic that nobody or no countries would have ever had the same issues, first of all, or try to act on it or do anything. People from other countries are just observant of what's happening and they're doing nothing. Not even a single person would do anything about it. Second of all, the speed that it all changed and the speed that the world transitioned is so extremely fast. It literally happened overnight. Overnight, all women lost all their jobs, and overnight everyone was just like, okay, women have no powers anymore. They basically no humans anymore. They have no rights. And I feel like it's so unrealistic that no woman would fight back or stand up to it, or even no man would do anything like this. Basically, in this story, all men are like, okay, I'm fine with it, I don't care. How is this realistic? How? And how come overnight everything changed and there was no kind of demonstrations, no anything happening? I just can't get my head around it. It just felt so unrealistic. There would be someone fighting back, whether it would be men or women. In the story, the men are all happy with the way they are. Apparently in the story, all women are good and they're oppressed, and all men are horrible and they are the oppressors, and they don't care. They really don't care about what's happening to women as long as it's not them. I just feel like it's not something that would have happened just like this overnight, and there will be no protests or anything whatsoever. I do appreciate the concept and the idea behind the book, that we must strive for everyone to have equal opportunities, equal rights, and that we never should lead to something like this happening. As a book, it was not a good book. There was just no explanation about how it happened. In dystopian novels, what the author has to do is make the reader believe that this can happen. And as long as you provide the reasons and the ways and show how it happened, I would be happy to believe it, and I think it would be a 4 out of 5 star books. But it didn't show it, so it wasn't realistic. I know a lot of people will push back on it, and I still do think that it's an important book just to take as a kind of precautious to not go that way. For us, for the humanity, for the human race, not to go that way. But it's a book I cannot recommend it. I would like to see how the TV show turns out, because I heard so many good things about the TV show, and I wonder what they did to it, because there's really not much happening. I wonder if they added some things. I think there are like 4 seasons, so how can you make 4 seasons out of a book this size? Must have added some plot or something else to it, because there's not enough content for 4 seasons of a show in this book. Okay, so that was a little bit of a rant, but these are all the books that I managed to finish in the month of August. I have also started reading The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, but only got up to page about 30 or 40, so I am gonna be continuing it and finishing it in September. Please let me know down below in the comments what you managed to read in August. I would very much like to know. And also, if you read any of the books that I mentioned in here, let me know what were your thoughts, especially about The Handmaid's Tale, because As always, if you like this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again with another video soon.